against a dark background. Rat. Location: Echo Street, Lip City, Rouge Holy Protectorate. Shafrant Dries Morat Alpsasafin, 463rd in line to the now non-existent throne of the shattered Imperium, finished vomiting with a final phlegmy spit into the rain-filled gutter of Echo Street. Rains hammered down on the hillied cobbled street, washing the vomit far downstream towards the Rouge Sacrosanctum belonging to the Sisterhood of Gehenna. The gutter water was normally thick and black and smelt rancid, so Morat was thankful that the rains had at least masked the sludge, if not washed it away. A gust of wind blew paper scraps out of a bin, picked up by the vortex like a flock of palely fluttering injured birds. Probably foreclosure notices, reminders of unpaid bills, invitations to join various cults, all cast into the rubbish heap that was Lip City. Morat, or just Rat as most people called him, stood from his doubled over position and wiped his filthy hands on his coat. He was nervous, well, terrified, and he'd never been able to keep his rations down when he felt this way. Echo Street was known as a place where you could find things that you shouldn't. Anything from exotic drugs derived from the Intractulum, the single plant that covered over 75% of the planet Mirkens, to face-dancing prostitutes ready to take on any form for the right price. Deeper in the bowels of the townhouses of Echo Street lay dark clubs where clones would fight to the death in vicious blood sports. You could watch or join in with organ-swapping parties, orgies with genetically engineered beasts, and then there were the art tortures such as gut gardening and the Wailing Wheels, and other flesh-sculpting works. Whether the participants were willing or not, often a mystery. To Rat, Echo Street was somewhere between home and a waking nightmare. "You looking to feel the echoes of your past love, sugar?" A voice crooned from behind Rat. He turned to see an androgynous-looking figure stood under an umbrella made of screen weave, the material showing eye-catching videos of various erotic arts and pornography laid over with a price list for various services. It was a face dancer Rat knew from the clubs called Rin. They were one of the few to be out working even during the toxic rains. He knew they needed a regular income of credits to buy the medication to treat the complications that had arisen from their face dancer gene modification. "Oh, Rat, it's you. I didn't recognize you." "Oh, Prophet's blood, you don't look well. Are you feeling alright?" Rat wiped his mouth, just in case there was any vomit on it still. "I'm fine, Rin, thanks. Just the rains, I'm sure. I'm sensitive to the chemicals." "Then why not get inside? What are you doing out here anyway? It's pouring down." Rat ran through his cover story again in his head. He had come up with it just in case such a situation as this had arisen. "I'm meeting someone. I said I'd meet them outside and I don't have their EID, so I can't." "Oh, like a date. Look at you, Rat. I didn't think you had it in you." "Remember when I offered you that freebie and you got all shy and ran off?" "Yes, Rin, I do. And it's not a date anyway, I'm just meeting a friend." Rin's eyes flashed from a bright blue to flickering between a deep green and yellow, their face warping slightly as they laughed. Random or uncontrolled morphing was clearly one of the issues Rin needed medication for. "I'm sorry, Rat, but I've never seen you strike up a conversation with anyone in the clubs, let alone have a friend. If you're meeting someone else for services, I shan't get jealous, I'll understand." "Oh, Rin, no, it's nothing like that. I mean it. Just a friend." Another gust of wind caught Rin's umbrella. The video playing on it flickered and flashed. Okay, well, you can still get up the rain though. You look like death. Death? Thought Rat. If you only knew. An armoured car turned up the road from the bottom of Echo Street, slowly trundling up towards them. Rin's face morphed as they smiled. Ah, looks like customers. Maybe Kim Company or Rouge? Rin, I've got to go. Rat stammered, already moving away up the street from the car. Oh, okay. Catch you later, yeah? But Rat was already gone. Pulling his hood tighter over his head, he jogged up the street and crossed into the archway of a door, and stood out of sight of the car. If it is the Rouge... Oh fuck, maybe they know. Fate. As a genetic descendant of the Imperium, the once ruling body of the whole system, who only lost their power after the Light War between the Imperium and the Rouge, Morat had been born without a phylactery. Imperium genetic conditioning had bred the growth of the psionic organ out of its people, meaning that, unlike those born with one, they could not access the data corpus or crypt through their mind alone. This had originally been born out of the Imperium's hatred of the Rouge and their crypt, and the Imperium's goal of creating an immortal race in the real, as opposed to possessing an immortal soul in the crypt. But over 500 years had passed since the shattering of the Imperium and the destruction of its great houses, and Morat was left without an innate connection to the crypt, part of why he had been assigned this mission. Rat pulled out his cryptopad and tapped out a message. I'm here. Where are you? ? Rat heard the armoured car approaching, the hum of its E-grid-powered engine getting louder and louder. He ducked down in the doorway alcove, pulled his hood tightly over his face, and felt for the bulk of the laser pistol in his pocket. Please, not now. If I fail, then fate knows what will happen. Please, please, please. The car came to a stop right next to him, its dark metal bulk and mirrored windows reflecting Rat's tiny, crouched form. Rat flicked the laser pistol's power on, heard the whine of the weapon spinning up, drawing power from the wireless energy grid. The hard part of deciding if he would shoot the Rouge in the car, or himself in the head. The window rolled down. Mr. Sasafin, if you would. The door of the armoured car hissed for a moment, then swung open. Rat looked up at the figure in the car and nearly cried. He stood and slid through the door. It closed behind him, sealing tight. The car's interior was made of night tiger leather mixed with other opulent dark materials. Rat sat in the seat facing opposite the soul of a person in the back of the car. Where were you? Fate! I thought you were the Rouge and nearly... I was waiting for hours. Sat against a dark background of the night tiger leather seats was a man with dark, dark eyes and a wicked smile. My apologies, Mr. Sasafin, but plans require us to move cautiously. The Rouge's counter-surveillance network is closing in, and our window of opportunity is close at hand. And it would be appreciated if you would deactivate that laser pistol in your pocket. Your hand is shaking, and your index finger is dangerously close to the trigger. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't. Rat flicked the power off and felt the weapon spin down. He pondered for a second how the man even knew he had a laser pistol in his pocket.
Maybe a snooper sensor could detect the weapon? But his finger position... What do you know about your mission? Oh, well, I know it's an attack on the Hooge, and that timing is important, and Rat found it difficult to vocalize the words crowding his head. Yes, you will be attacking the Hooge, and the World Court. And the World Court? Yes. A World Court surveillance satellite that will be in range of the Gehenna Sacrosanctum as you attack it. The Sacrosanctum? As in the temple of Gehenna in the middle of the crater, but how? And why the satellite? Rat could feel himself panicking. He felt sick. Calm yourself, Mr. Sasafin. And with those words, Rat felt himself relax without thinking, as if the man's words had bypassed his conscious and entered his body, like a reflex. We have acquired an Imperium offensive unit bow effector weapon, quite a rare and very expensive piece of equipment. As with all Imperium equipment, it is biocoded to the genetic stock of the Imperium, such as yourself. This block is still in place over 500 years after the Hooge shattered the Imperium. Rat couldn't help but feel anger at the mention of the shattering of the Imperium. Morat's great-great-great-grandfather had been one of the barons present aboard the great artificial ring world called Heaven when the Hooge destroyed it. The battle for Heaven had been the last of the conflicts in the Light War. The artificial world circling the star Goltaris had been the greatest construction in the entire history of life on Golta. This was the Imperium's solution to the Hooge's dominance over the other planets. And after hundreds of years of construction and over 1,000 years of glory, the Light War came. The Hooge had argued that the Light War was necessary to stop the Imperium from creating more machine minds, which the Hooge holy books say will lead to the destruction of the worlds. Indeed, the very robotic workforce the Imperium had created to construct the Great Heaven Ring world had eventually turned hostile against anything that stood in their way, now called the Hive. The two factions were always ideologically opposed. The Hooge's religious and cultural focus on the data corpus and the afterlife existing within it was opposed by the Imperium's goal of reaching a physical immortality, which involved a lot of genetic meddling and a deep reliance on AI technology. And despite the Imperium's 3,000 years of control over Golta, it ended the second the Hooge fired the Pentrama, one of 5 of the legendary laser guns at Heaven, destroying it instantly. Mr. Sasafin, are you still with us? Oh, yes, sorry, I was just thinking. Right, so you're going to use the Imperium Effector to take down the Temple of Gehenna's, well, I guess a full spectrum blockade? And then use the World Court satellite overhead to hack the databanks, right? But then firing at the satellite? That doesn't make sense. Even if you take down the defenses, you can't remotely hack them. They use bioprocessors, it's all local. The satellite will be handled in person by another operative. And correction, you, Mr. Sasafin, you will be using the effector. Rat narrowed and lowered his eyes. Right. Won't a ship's bow effector be fucking massive? I grew up on ships. I know bow weapons are huge. The weapon is already in position. There's no need to worry. The arming, aiming, and firing will be operated by this drone. Rat nearly jumped out his seat when the small, squat, cylindrical-shaped drone rose from the black leather seat next to him. To Rat it looked like a dark metal puck underslung with two arm-like pods. The nearly silent machine was perhaps the size of an open pair of hands. It floated at eye height with Rat. Part of the security franchise's latest developments in drone technology. It can interface with the effector as well as keeping you safe. All you need to do, Mr. Sasafin, is activate the weapon and to keep your hand on the dead man's switch. That is all. And for it you will be paid handsomely. Look, I'm not really in this for the money, but it's the risks. You're asking me to attack a Hoosh holy site and a world-caught spycraft. That's pissing off two of the top dogs in the fucking system. I don't know if any amount of 350 million credits, or we can have them converted to golds if you're sticking in the Holy Protectorate. Fate? 350. That's, well, He could live like his family used to in the Imperium, or move to Trons and buy his own club, or go off-world, get a ship and a small crew and sail the system. He could be an actual king on Meerkens. A few of the Imperium descendants had set up micronations you could buy with its own local population to rule over. He'd buy Rin a full genetic overhaul, fix and maybe upgrade them. Maybe take them with him? Rin had always been kind, and seemed to like him. Good. Then we have a deal. And with that, the car moved off. The vehicle's automatics guiding it up Echo Street, past a patcher, face down in the gutter, and onto the main road. The acceleration of the armed car forced Rat back into the seat. He noted the security franchise drone as it slightly tilted to adjust for this. The man with the dark eyes didn't move at all. Buildings whizzed past the car as it weaved its way through traffic at high speeds. Other autos on the road seemed to move out the way, implying that either the armoured car had Hoosh high priority right of way, or that the cars were being live hacked. Little lights of a multitude of colours on the drone's surface seemed to flick on and off across its dark body, drifting position slowly and changing in colour as cars passed. Fate? Rat thought. That thing does look cutting edge. And to buy an effector? 350 million to me! And whatever he meant about an operative in space, he must have a lot of money. And must want whatever data's in that temple enough to spend it all. May I ask, sir? Why? He gesticulated to the drone, the car, and to himself. All this? The cost, the risk, for what? Mr. Sasafin, there are many Imperium descendants I could have picked for this mission, but I picked you because I heard you were shy and quiet and kept to yourself. My reasons are my own. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I just... I'm sorry. Rat sank back in his seat and looked down at his shoes. There was a tiny bit of vomit on one of them. He tried to cross his legs in order to hide it. The car twisted its way around the turnpike and exited off the main highway ring road towards the edge of the crater bowl of the Sacrosanctum. The car sped around a roundabout and pulled onto Lip Road, the mostly pedestrian road that ran the entire 25-kilometer radius of the eponymous lip of Lip City. Rat always got vertigo seeing the edge. The grand scale of the dark, smooth bowl sloping down towards the towering, black, shimmering pyramid. The Temple of Gehenna. His target. The car had slowed down for Lip Road. Two whose drones had followed the car. One, a library drone, blasting voices over loudspeakers, reading the history of the city, the one place on Golta where Pentrama had ever been fired. The holy fire of its cleansing light. But how the Pentrama are not weapons, but tools to serve the Hooge, to save the race from the time of end. The second drone sported a thunder rifle, loaded with armor-piercing rounds and a laser array. This drone was silent. The car turned left down a narrow alleyway, and both drones peeled off. Rat noticed that the security franchise drone in the car had lost the multitude of little lights it had earlier, and now only had two larger dots, one yellow and one red. Rat didn't doubt that if he drew a straight line from the two dots, that they would intersect with the Who's drones. Rat had spent the first 27 years of his life working on ships with various machines, part of why he thought he had been selected for this mission. But this machine looked dangerous. If it had been hacking the Who's drones, that meant it had some serious hardware. The car pulled down an even narrower alleyway and stopped. You will follow the drone to the effector. I will be able to communicate with you through the machine if needed.
The door is open. Good fate, Mr. Sasafin. The money will be in your account as soon as we have the data recovered. I won't let you down, sir. I promise. If you fail, Mr. Sasafin, it will not only be me that you let down. It could be the end of the world. Come on. The man with the dark eyes didn't smile. Rat, feeling awkward, left his seat and followed the drone out the car. The man's words echoed around his head. For some reason, with every step he took away from the car, he believed them more and more. The car sped away. Rat turned to watch it go. The drone floated into Rat's field of view and dipped to the side to indicate for him to follow. He turned and walked behind the drone as it approached the front door of a tall, run-down apartment building. The drone's body flashed with a few pinpricks of light, and the automatic doors squealed open. Clearly, they hadn't been used in a long time. Rat looked upwards towards the building's summit, a good 40 floors above. Cracks lined the building's superstructure. The firing of the laser gun in Lip City had, of course, been devastating, killing hundreds of millions of people. But it was instant, clean, surgical. The issues had arisen later on. The earthquakes and sinkholes as the ground began to displace. The massive electromagnetic field that had shut down the local e-grid transmission, which had caused flyers to drop out the sky, mag trains to derail and cars to pile up. A nearby fusion power plant had gone critical deep under the surface and caused even more desolation, as well as kicking up long-buried chemicals and tons of radiation. Areas of Lip City, even over 2,000 years after the firing, had been left alone.
Fears of making alterations leading to more collapses had meant that this was one of the rare places on Golta to not be instantly redeveloped after a conflict. The Imperium may have tried when they were in power, but this was the Hoosh Holy Protectorate, and they liked people to be reminded of the past and of the power of their weapons. The lobby of the building was dark and stank of piss and shit. At the far end of the filthy, litter-strewn room was an elevator door. The drone dipped towards it, and a cool light flashed on. The hum of the lift ascending mixed with the squeals and the occasional bangs of the unattended machine. The door slid open. Rat jumped at the sight of the patcher, his arms covered in faded electrochemical patches, the addictive contact drug that swept Lip City. The man was laying on the floor of the lift, dead or asleep. Rat wasn't sure. The drone had positioned itself in front of Rat, but slowly drifted towards the patcher. Blue lights on the shell of the drone winked on and off in the direction of the prone body. It hovered over his chest and descended. Two wire-thin metal telescoping claws emerged from the underslung pods, one grabbing the man's chin and turning his head towards the drone's front sensor band. The drone suddenly flashed a deep red for a moment. The patcher's body jolted before going limp again. The drone let the head drop to one side. It turned to face Rat as its claw arm snicked back into its body, indicating to Rat to enter the lift. Rat slowly walked over and stepped inside, careful to avoid the patcher in case he moved again. The doors closed as soon as he got in the lift and sped upwards with the squeaking of machinery. Rat couldn't help but see the neat hole in the centre of the patcher's forehead as blood began to slowly ooze out. He looked to the drone and felt a growing sense of dread. Fate, it just fucking killed him. Just like that. I... Rat turned away and vomited into the corner, this time fully coating his shoes in the splashback. He gasped for air and began to spit. He went cold when he felt the touch of the drone's wire-thin claws gently tapping him on the back. He looked over his shoulder to see that the drone had tidied the body into the opposite corner, the face and its oozing hole now against the wall, the drone's little lights glowing a sunflower yellow, like it was trying to smile at him. The lift came to a stop and the doors slid open. Rat stumbled out and took in gasps of air. He didn't look back as the lift doors closed. The effector was sat in the middle of the penthouse suite. The room's double height allowed the 5-meter white sphere to float snugly in the apartment. In a ring around the floating object was a mass of cables, screens, and various instruments. The effector itself was housed in a field envelope, as the exotic material of the crystal hyperlattice weighed a few thousand tons. Rat had seen one before in a surviving Imperium ship, but they were very expensive and even more rare. The drone floated next to one of the screens. Its wire arm snaked into the control panel. The drone's shell was flooded with a multitude of rainbow lights. It looked towards Rat and dipped towards an armchair pulled up next to a protruding metal bump on one of the consoles. He sat in the worn old chair and raised his hand to the bump, the cold induction pad suddenly warming as he made contact with it. A voice in the Imperium battle language spoke to Rat.
Identify House Aubsesafin, Chafrondriez clan. Confirmed. Welcome. Starting hyperlazing. Please stand by.
The effector's white fuel bubble went transparent for a moment, and Rat saw into the heart of the machine. It was like looking into an infinitely repeating and shifting hall of warping mirrors filled with lightning. The field went opaque again when the weapon had finished its tests.
Effector systems operating at 99.463% efficiency. Awaiting orders.
It's working. Now what? The drone dipped towards the apartment's row of floor-to-ceiling windows. A few panes had been removed, presumably to allow the effector to be placed in this room. The tall building had a view facing the Sacrosanctum Bowl, the temple in the centre like a piece of sharpened obsidian, its superstructure covered in lights of various defensive turrets, field emitters and drone launch bays. Rat took a deep breath and kept his hand on the induction pad. He knew if he took it off, the weapon would not fire. The drone's lights twinkled with white pinpricks.
Target data received. Radius set 1 kilometer. Full spectrum cascade. Bearing -45. LSAT nominal. Danger. Close. Firing sequence ready.
Okay, it's ready to fire. The 5 minutes Rat spent waiting felt like an eternity, each anxiety running rampant through his head like a wildfire. Rat was fighting the urge to run, to flee from this, but he knew somehow the drone wouldn't let him. And the thought of the body curled up in the lift made him feel glued to the spot.
Firing sequence activated.
Suddenly spoke the effector, making Rat jump.
Danger close. Stand clear.
A red band circled a section of the sphere facing the windows, showing the area of the effector that standing in front of would result in instant death. From within the red circle, the effector went transparent, and the crystal hyperlattice span like a trillion shattered mirrors in a hurricane. Lightning flashed within the heart of the machine. Rat felt his ears pop as the pressure in the room shifted. He held his breath. The beam wasn't visible to the naked eye, yet the reins in a conically outstretched beam fizzed and span and turned to steam. The lights on the temple died. Rat was shaking. Fuck. I think it worked. Prophet's blood, we actually hit the fucking hooge. We did. The effector interrupted him.
Target data received. Radius set 10 meters. 8 to 10 partial cascade bearing 165. LSAT nominal.
A red band appeared directly on top of the effector, looking up at the ceiling. It narrowed in size until it approached the dimensions of a closed fist.
Firing sequence ready.
Rat looked at the drone. It's ready to fire at the satellite. Don't mind the roof, it can punch straight through. There was a bang and a flash, a window shattered. The security franchise drone flew across the room, spinning, trailing sparks and smashed into a far wall. The biopropellant smart bullet still lodged in its side. Rat watched as the Hooge combat drone floated into view, its large thunder rifle reloading to fire another shot. The dark machine, twice the size of Rat, floated in through the smashed window. The weapon cracked, and another round smashed into the little security franchise drone, sending it spinning into the corner. The Hooge drone turned towards Rat, the thunder rifle clacking as it changed ammo type and reloaded. Rat, frozen in place, hand still on the induction pad, wanted to scream, but couldn't. He did the only thing he could think. He dove his other hand into his pocket and drew out the laser pistol, flicking the power on. His hand was shaking so much. I'll shoot, he spluttered. The Hooge drone drifted towards him, unperturbed.
Rat pulled the trigger. A pencil-thin line of red light struck the drone's armor, having no effect. Rat fired again and again and again. He could see the dark eye of its front sensor array watching him, probably trying to identify him in the WHO's database before deciding what to do with him.
Please, it's not me you want. He just hired me. You want him? I'll tell you everything. Please, just don't kill me. The WHO's drone's thunder rifle tilted upwards towards his head. He could see the tip of the large bullet down the barrel aimed between his eyes. No, listen. His name is... The side of the WHO's drone exploded as it was struck by a barrage of laser fire. The dark machine span and sparked. It powered up its engines and tried to retreat, but as soon as it made it back out the window, its engine unit died. The drone plummeted out of view. The security franchise drone shot like a missile towards the window, its shell of lights all red and focused on the falling Rouge husk. It must have hacked its engine units. With blinding speed, the little drone turned towards Rat and powered over to the console it was at before, wire arms diving into the sockets. Rat adjusted his grip on the induction pad. He hadn't let go.
Firing sequence activated.
The pressure dropped. The apartment ceiling directly above the effector's white sphere began to glow an instant white hot. It bubbled and split and the molten mesh shot upwards.
Target hit. Awaiting new firing orders.
Did it? I fucking did it. Profit, shitting, blood. Rouge and the World Cup.
His beaming face, filled with elation, slowly went slack. The little drone had already left the console and had floated to about a foot away from his head. Its shell of lights, the sunflower yellow again. The smile. But then why did Rat feel so sick suddenly? I wasn't gonna actually tell them the boss's name or anything. It was just a distraction so you could, do what you did. Look, the job's done now, so... Yet, as he spoke, the thin wire arm snaked up towards his neck. One by one, the yellow pinpricks of light darkened in colour, turning blood red. The little cold wire claws holding his head still. Apologies, Mr. Zasafin. The voice of the man with dark eyes spoke from the drone. But it must be this way.
Please, sir. I don't want to die. I haven't got a phylactery. No afterlife, I'll be gone.
I know. Can't leave any loose ends now, can we?
I won't tell no one. I'll say nothing, I swear on Goltaris.
The Rouge have truth-sayers. Though, I doubt they would even need them for you, Mr. Zasavin.
No, you can't do this. You can't.
And yet... The drone was now blood red all over. Goodbye, Mr. Zasafin. Chefront Trieste Morat Aub Zasafin, 463rd in line to the now non-existent throne of the shattered Imperium, cried.
What have I done?
He thought, and died. The armoured car left Lip City at speed. He sat back in the Night Tiger leather seat and listened to the emergency channels as the sacrosanct and defences came back online. Chaos and confusion whirled across all the comms. "Sir, a message for you," a voice played over the car speaker.
Yes, go ahead. Transmission from 42. Operation successful. It has the bioprocessor intact. It had to make an emergency landing in the Glasslands, though. Temple Prime arrived in orbit unexpectedly. Good. Set a route to 42. I want to extract the data from the pseudobrain myself. Of course, sir. I'll send the location to your car's automatics. Anything else, sir? No. Leave me to my thoughts. Of course, Mr. Adanier. He clicked a button on a screen, and all the transmissions ended. He sat in silence and closed his eyes, opening awareness to that place deep within him. We seem to actually be doing this. Once we have the data, the path to hell will be open. From there to the target, from the target to the lazy gun. And a voice, 333 right angles away, lodged deep in his soul, replied,
This was child's play. Do not forget that. The real challenge comes soon. We must face fate and win. Even the Pentrama cannot destroy that which is destined. The spiral is beginning to turn in this place.
Together, we can save the universes, Oskandari.
This is yet to be seen. You of all people should know that. The fate has the strangest machinations. Think of where fate has taken you, where it will take you. And what will happen when fate is done with you. Chavigan of Britannia.